very good day to everyone. My name is Winnie Mingaki. My number matrix is H2280317. Today I will present my assignment for AFD 2103 Business Statistics. This is based on dataset C Life Insurance Charge with 1,339 observations. My lecturer is Puan Noor Amira binti Muhammad Yazid. Introduction. Statistics is the collection and interpretation of data. There are two types of statistics, that is inferential statistics and descriptive statistics. In this assignment, we focus on analyzing data using SPSS software to analyze and interpret the data. Data description is the process of summarizing and organizing data to make it easier to understand and analyze. The goal of data description is to provide a clean and concise representation of the data that can be easily interpreted and used to inform decision making. A dataset in statistics is typically obtained by sampling a statistical population and recording the observation. We use statistical analyzing software such as SPSS to help analyze the dataset. It helps to identify patterns and trends within the data. SPSS software also help to analyze and interpret the data using t-test analysis, ANOVA analysis, correlation analysis, confidence interval, and prediction modeling. Sampling data and categorical data. We select a sample size of 315 from the first 367 observations out of the 1,339. The number 367 was determined by using the lowest last two digits of my metric number. There are two types of categorical data, nominal and ordinal. Descriptive measure. First, measure of frequency. We have frequency distribution, relative frequency, cumulative frequency. Second, measure of central tendency. We have mean, mode, and median. Third, measure of position. We have first quartile, third quartile, and interquartile range. Last, measure of variation. We have range, variance, standard deviation. This slide shows the calculate and analyze measure of frequency. This type of measure will only use on analyze the categorical data. Next. Measure of central tendency. The mean is the arithmetic average of a set of numbers, and it is calculated by summarizing all the value in the data and dividing by the total number of value. The median is the median value in a dataset when the values are arranged in numerical order. If the dataset have an odd number of value, the median is the middle value. If the datasets have an even number of value, the median is the average of the two middle value. To calculate the median, you first need to arrange the value in numerical order and then locate the middle value or average of the middle value. The mode is the most frequently occurring value in a dataset. It is the value that appears most often in the data. To calculate the mode, you need to count the number of occurrence of each value and identify the value that occur most frequently. Measure of position. First quarter is value that divide the values of the data that are less than the median into two equal parts. Third quarter, value that divide the values of data that are greater than the median into two equal parts. While the interquarter range is the difference between the upper and lower quarter of a dataset. It is a measure of a depression of the median 50% of the data, and it is calculated by subtracting the lower quarter from the upper quarter. Last, measure of variation. The range is the difference between the highest and lower value in a dataset. It is calculated by subtracting the minimum value from the maximum value. The variance is the measure of the depression of a data relative to the mean. It is calculated by taking the average of the square difference between each value and the mean. The standard deviation is a measure of a depression of a dataset relative to the mean. It is calculated by taking the square root of the variance. Next, 4.0 Graphical representation. Octave or cumulative frequency graph for H. There is two graphs, which is octave and histogram. The first step of preparing an octave graph is to generate a table of frequency distribution. This table must include the two frequencies of upper quarter. The data cumulative frequency are used to plot the y-axis, and the data for the upper boundaries are used to plot the y-axis. The plot must be left to right. Next, histogram for BMI. You can see that the x-axis labeled with midpoint and the y-axis labeled with frequency. From the graph, we can see that the higher BMI label with the deep midpoint where the frequency is 135. Next, histogram for the charge. You can see that the X-acid label with midpoint and the Y-acid label with the frequency. 5.0 Statistical Analysis using SPSS. SPSS stands for Statistical Package for Social Science. SPSS provides data analysis for descriptive statistics, numerical outcome prediction, and group identification. This software also provides data transformation, charting, and direct marketing function to manage data smoothly. Numerical descriptive measure. We can see the difference of data between using SPSS and manually by this table. Correlation analysis. The Bayesian correlation for the relationship between H and charge is 0.310, which is considered a low correlation. The significant value of the Bayesian correlation test is 0.00, which is less than significant decimal of 0.05. Hence, we have enough statistical evidence to reject null hypothesis and conclude that there is significant correlation between H and insurance charge. The significant value of the ANOVA test is 0.00. Therefore, we have enough statistical evidence to conclude that the predictive regression model is impactful. The R value of the model is 0.79. Is 0.379. At the same time, the R2 value is 0.144. This means that 14.4% of the variation independence variable. However, the remaining 85.6% still remain unexplained by the existing variable. The standard error of the estimate is 11414.05616, which gives an idea of the average difference between the predicted value and the actual value. Conclusion. In summary, we can perform all the statistical calculation we need for this report with the data we can obtain. We also calculate the class interval frequency, cumulative frequency, relative frequency, midpoint, upper boundary, and lower boundary to complete the graphical representation. We also describe the dataset with various numerical descriptive measure, including the measure of central tendency, the measure of position, and the measure of variation for two fields by manual calculation and the SPSS system. Besides, in hypothesis testing, we show in detail the 5 main steps, which are step known and alternative hypothesis, significant level, SPSS output, the decision rule, and the decision. Using the ANOVA test, we can conclude that there is a significant difference in the mean of the two samples. In addition, we also perform correlation analysis by using a scatter plot and a correlation table. The significant value of the recent correlation test is 0.00, which is less than the signification threshold of the 0.05. Hence, we have enough statistical evidence to reject the null hypothesis and conclude that there is a significant correlation between H and insurance charge. The R value between H and insurance charge is 0.31, so there has a weak correlation between H and insurance charge. Furthermore, the confidence interval can be related to the confidence level. And that's all for me. Thank you for listening.